Hello and welcome to a new devlog video for the Animal Behavior Kit. I am super excited to announce that development for the update 1.4 has finally begun. And in this video, I'll give you guys a quick overview of the things I've been working on for the past week or so. So you can see here that we have a test level and we have a little bear. And the first thing I want to show you guys is improvements to the attack animations. So with the bear selected, you can see that now we have here a new section for attack animations. Obviously, I'll be removing the old one as cleanup. But if I expand here, it's basically the same. You can add as many animations as you want. But now when you expand here, you'll see that we have a few new things. Now we have a damage amount per animation that was highly requested. You can also specify the damage type, whether it's single damage or area of effect. Again, super useful depending on the type of animation that you have. And finally, we have this damage component tag. So think about an animal that does damage. Let's say it bites, but maybe does like a tail swipe. Right now, if you have that kind of animal, it's a little bit hard to configure because we're only using one sphere component to do damage, right? To do the trace. What now you can do is you can add as many sphere components as you want. You can attach them to different body parts of the animals, maybe via sockets. And now, as long as you give that component a specific tag, you can define that tag here per animation, and then that sphere component will be used to do that damage trace. So if you have an animation that is a biting animation, you can attach one sphere component to the mouth. Maybe another one is for the claws. You can have a different one for that, or the tail, etc. So each animation now has its own damage amount, damage type, and potentially can use its own component, which again gives a lot of flexibility and a lot more realism to the types of animals and attacks that you can add. And along with that, which we're going to see in just a second, I've been adding some new debug options for the animals. The first one here is going to be melee damage. So if I just select melee damage, it'll just display the damage that the animal is doing. So just going to click play here real quick. Now when I get close to the bear, it's going to get aggressive. And as he starts attacking me, you can see on the left hand corner that was attack 3, damage 3. You can see that again. That's damage 3 for that animation. That swipe is attack 2 and it does damage 2. And that's damage 3. So depending on the animation, obviously it's going to be random. See that attack 1, damage 1 is going to be doing different damage per animation, which is awesome. Something else, since I have you here on the debug that I've added, is this target location debug. I'm just going to click simulate here. This is something that I kind of wish I had. It's really useful for debug purposes. If the animal is roaming around, in this case, it's going to pick a random location on the nav mesh. Before, you had to open the actual task inside the behavior tree to enable this option. I just now have a global toggle for any kind of movement ability. Now you can quickly see where the animal is trying to go. So if the animal is somehow stuck somewhere, or it's not moving properly, or it's taking like a detour, now it's very easy to see where is this animal actually trying to go. And you can see here that we have that target location. All right. The other improvement I made is on the flee behavior. So I'm going to disable this real quick. So you can see here that under the regular settings, you have an engaged behavior, and this is pretty standard. You have ignore, you have flee, try to hide, defend, and attack. Right. So flee is the default for like the deer. If an animal sees the player or any threat, it's just going to flee, going to run away. But if the animal has any other behavior but flee, it was not fleeing. So now we have the ability to make any animal, including aggressive animals that would attack you, flee when they get hurt. And again, this is just to make things a little bit more realistic. So now we have a flee behavior section here. This is new. So if I expand here, you can see that we have now a separate walk speed and acceleration factors. So maybe you want the animal to flee running really fast. It's running for its life, right? So maybe that is a different speed than the way it walks normally. We have a flee distance from target is going to be 5,000 units by default. And by the way, I've removed the need to use EQS and I'm using custom code, which means that I can actually make more improvements, and it gives me more flexibility on how I want to handle the fleeing behavior. So before, the old flee behavior, it would pick a location, it would run to that location, it would stop, and then if the player or threat was still close by, it would engage again, find a new location, and flee again. So you would get this like start-stop kind of behavior, which is not as realistic. The new behavior is going to constantly look for this distance, and as long as the animal is within this distance, it's going to continue fleeing. And before the animal even stops, it's going to do a quick distance check, and it's going to pick a new location. It's going to kind of keep on running. So you're going to see that in a second. As we are chasing the animal is going to continue fleeing no matter what happens until it gets to this distance. So a little bit more realistic. And you can see that we have the option here. It's a toggle, whether you want the animal to flee when it hits a certain low HP. And this is again to make it more realistic, because even an aggressive animal that's attacking you, if he gets hurt really badly, is probably going to try to run away to survive. So now this bear has, I believe it's 10 HP, and we're going to say, hey, even if the bear is aggressive, if the bear hits an HP that is lower than 5, you can specify the amount here, I want the bear to just start fleeing, right? That's going to override the behavior from attacking to fleeing. And you can even make this a temporary change. So you can say, hey, I want this behavior to be temporary. I don't want the behavior to be fleeing. We're going to make this temporary, and we're going to say after 30 seconds, let's go ahead and change that behavior. And now if I click play, let's test that out. The bear is running around. It notices me, and now it's going to come and start attacking me. You can see that it's doing damage to me. So we're going to go ahead and hit it. And you can see the HP at the top. It's still going to attack me, still hurting me. So I'm going to keep hurting him. And I believe one more is going to put it below that threshold. So you can see here that now the animal is hurt. It's going to try to find the new location, and it now starts fleeing. And I'm going to kind of keep pursuing, and you can see that the animal continues running because of that distance. So as long as it sees me that it's engaged, it's going to keep on running. And it's going to be a little hard to see, so let me show you this real quick. If I look at the target location, you'll see what I mean there. So it's going to be running around. It's going to find us. Now you can see that the target location is us, because obviously it's coming to us. So I'm going to hurt the animal, and now you can see the target location is over there. It's going to start running. New target location, but as I keep running, you can see that it's going to pick a new target location. And this is obviously a bug that I got to fix. You can see that it's picking locations that are above ground, so those are not valid. But you can see that it's just kind of looking for new locations here. So once this issue is fixed, the animal is going to continue running. You can see here it's looking for new locations here, but it's not finding it. There you go. So obviously things are still heavily under development, but once that is fixed, you'll see that it continues looking for new locations, and it's going to continue running until it gets to that distance, which is 5,000. So here, in the case of fleeing, let me just remove, where is it? Right here. I'm going to remove that temporary change. So I wanted to continue fleeing until it gets to 5,000. And alongside that change, I figured that maybe some health regeneration would be nice. So that's again a new improvement here. You can choose to have the animal regenerate its HP after a certain amount of time. And this is after disengage, meaning kind of getting out of combat. So if I make this enabled, and I'm just going to make it 10 seconds, you can also specify the percent HP to regenerate. So 1 is obviously 100%. So what's going to happen is we damage the animal is going to flee, and then once it flees and it disengages from the player, meaning doesn't detect the player nearby, after 10 seconds, it's going to regenerate its HP. So all of these are optional, of course. So you don't have to do that. If you want the animal to be hurt kind of forever, that's fine. But I figured this makes it more interesting. You can see that the animal here, just by looking at the HP bar, is very low. So we're gonna let him flee. It's gonna go ahead and flee, and then we're gonna give it a little bit of time. You can see that it's still fleeing. We need to be 5,000 units away, and then once it disengages, you're gonna see that the animal's gonna start going to random locations on the nav mesh. These are the target locations, and I think it's been more than 10 seconds. I didn't count, but let's just get close and see if that HP has regenerated. Yep, you can. It's running away now, but you can see that the HP has now gone back to 100%. So yeah, obviously you can see that the flee behavior still needs some work, especially on that invalid location. But once that is fixed, I think that's going to be a lot more realistic, especially this flee when low HP. It's going to make things a lot more interesting. All right. And the last thing I want to show you guys is some improvements on the obstruction code. So when I worked on this, it was years ago. I'm going to debug here. Instead of target, I'm going to leave target location here. There were some instances where the animals would get like basically stuck forever, right? And I made improvements to the NPC manager system's obstruction system by having that NPC, in that case NPC, kind of teleport to its destination if it really got stuck. So in this case, we'll look at kind of what happens here. So for whatever reason, this animal is stuck here. Maybe during gameplay you have some obstacles that fall, and the animal is just trying to go to a random location. So if I just click on simulate here, you see that the animal is trying to go somewhere right here, but it's simply stuck. He just can't do anything, right? And it's gonna eventually pick a different location, but you see it picked another location here, but it's basically stuck. So now if we go to the obstruction settings, we're gonna click on active, and now we're gonna check every second. And what's gonna happen is after a certain amount of tries, and we're gonna debug this, the animal will actually change its collision bounds, and you can see why I have it kind of visible here. You can see that we have a sphere collision. You can see it here. This is basically the animal collision. So we're gonna click on play here. We can see that the animal is trying to get somewhere, and you can see on the left hand side that it's trying to go, and eventually the collision got reduced to allow the animal to pass through those bars, and that is this value that you see here. So we're gonna do a check. If the animal hasn't moved more than 10 units, we're gonna do 3 checks, meaning every second we're gonna do a check, and after 3 checks the animal is still stuck. Go ahead and reduce the collision size to 20% of its original size, and this is what you saw there. So if you, I'm gonna click here again, so you can see what happens here. The animal's stuck, it's trying to go there. After 3 tries, the size of the collision here is reduced, which makes him be able to go through the bars. So that is actually the regular behavior, by the way. This is what's already in ABK. But what happens if you have a different solution? What happens if you have the animal get stuck in a place like this? It can barely go through, and even now when the see, in this case he actually went through, but let's say that the animal actually gets stuck. So let's make the collision reduction, instead of 20%, let's make it like 50%. Now you click simulate, and even after resizing the collision, you'll see there, the animal is still stuck. So what happens now is that the animal is teleported to that location. So that is the new part there. It's going to have a what we call a relocation check, and after 6 tries, and obviously you can change the number of tries here. After 6 tries of being stuck, it's just going to relocate the animal, and that's going to basically teleport the animal to its target location. You can see it's going to resize it. It still can't get through. It's still stuck. It's still stuck. It'll get just teleported to the destination, and then it's going to go and move on with its life. So that is the new part that's coming from the NPC manager system. I think having both is useful. It's obviously more realistic. You would want the animal to pass through the bars if it can first, but maybe if it just completely stuck, maybe you want the animal to just get to its location. So I'm thinking of adding one more check, like a boolean here, just for that relocation, because it does get unrealistic. Maybe you would rather have your animal get completely stuck. Maybe that's part of the gameplay, or maybe you don't want the animal to get stuck at all and you want it to teleport to its location. So I'm probably going to add an additional check here, but that's going to do it for the updates for obstruction. Alright guys, so this is all I have for this week. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, super excited to be working on ABK. I know a lot of you guys left comments on that video at the end of last year saying that you've been waiting for updates to ABK for literally over a year, sometimes maybe even 2 years, which I understand. But it is a time for ABK to get some updates. So super excited to hear what you have to say, and I'll continue making these devlogs as I make more and more progress on the update. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video.